In this video, I'm going to talk about some basic trig functions and identities. In previous videos, I talked about cosine and sine functions, but I didn't talk about their inverse functions, and that's the point of this video. First of all, the first function I wanted to talk about was the tangent of x, because it's very useful the way you can change it into sine of x and cosine of x. So tan of x is also equal to sine of x over cosine of x. And basically that's the way you obtain the derivative of tangent of x. The second function is the inverse function of cosine, which is 1 over cosine of x. And that's called secant of x. You can just write it sec x. So that's just 1 over cosine of x. The same goes for sine of x, but it's called cosecant, and you write it c as c of x. Finally, 1 over tangent of x is cotangent of x. So cotangent of x is simply 1 over tangent of x. And those are the basic trig functions and inverse trig functions. I will cover their differentiation in the following video. Now for the trig identities, the two main ones are cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x is equal to 1, and 1 plus tangent squared of x is equal to secant squared of x. Now these are very useful in solving trig problems because you can make, like in this case, sine squared of x into cosine squared of x. So this could also be cosine squared of x is equal to 1 minus sine squared of x. The same goes for sine squared of x is equal to 1 minus cosine squared of x. And then for the other identity, tan squared of x can be secant squared of x minus 1, and secant squared of x is just solved, so it's basically 1 plus tan squared of x. And finally, you can also say that 1 is equal to secant squared of x minus tan squared of x. So you can see that these are very useful for when you want to convert from one identity, from one function to another. And they can really simplify the problem by a lot. There are 4 more identities I wanted to talk about. And those are the sine of a sum, the cosine of a sum, and the sine and cosine of 2 times x. First of all, the sine of a plus b is equal to sine of a by itself times the cosine of b, also just b, plus the sine of b times the cosine of a. For the case of the cosine of a plus b, it's grouped into functions. So first it would be the cosine of a times the cosine of b minus the sine of a times the sine of b. So a good way to remember the cosine of a plus b is to just group it into functions, and instead of a sum, it's a subtraction. For the case of sine of 2 times x, the formula is 2 times the cosine of x times the sine of x. And for cosine of 2 times x, it's cosine squared of x minus sine squared of x. And as well, a good way to remember this one is to think about the identity, but instead of a plus sign, it's a negative sign. And that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. I will get into the differentiation of the inverse functions in the next one. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it and found it useful. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe for more.